scheduled and everything, and now I won't pick it up. So I was like, this is fucking sweet. And then on top of that, my fantasy football team, I totally shouldn't bet on that one. Started players that I shouldn't have. It's been quite a day so far. Not to blow your eardrums out. I ended up getting 0 points from my tight end and -1 from my kicker. And that pretty much sealed the deal. I think I lost by 7 points. And then I played Hines instead of so that was really awesome. Really awesome. Let's get into this motherfucker, shall we? What is up, everybody? Yes, it is that time of the week again. Yes, you're seeing just my mug. And this mug is Ryan Turbo Jackson, your host of the Turbo and 2K show, where we give you our amateur opinion on everything sports. But don't worry, I do have my co-host, the awesome Mr. now 29, Kyle 2K's Kaler. Happy belated birthday, my friend. How are you doing on your end? I think I don't blame you, and I mean, what the hell? You're celebrating your last birthday where you can officially consider yourself young, because once you hit 30, downhill from there, brother. Trust me on that one. Trust me on that one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we are going to dive into our NBA draft recap as far as the winners, losers are concerned. We're going to try to pick through all of this NBA free agent content, but hell, there is so much of it that I'm sure we're going to miss some. And I'm going to be forthright here, ladies and gentlemen. The NBA is probably like the fourth or fifth on the rung of what I pay attention to. So I'm just going to warn you, there are going to be some mispronounced names. I'm going to make some definite boo-boos on this one, but it is what it is, and it's something we have to cover because hell, it's the NBA, and we do have a lot of fans that are NBA fans, right? 2Ks. Yeah, and we're coming into a very unique NBA year, so let's kick it off with that because it is 2020 and nothing has been normal in fucking 2020. So why should the NBA season be any different? You might be thinking to yourself, well, Turbo, the NBA Finals were just like a month ago, and you're right. And you're right. Their training camps are going to be kicking off here pretty soon because they want to start the new season on the 22nd or 23rd of December, so that they can kind of cash in on that. Usually, always Christmas Day is a huge NBA day. There's 4 or 5 games on. So as far as the business of the NBA is concerned, they definitely did not want to miss that window. So, and you know what? I don't blame them, considering most of the venues are not going to be not going to have fans, and if they do have fans, they're going to be very limited. So the owners are going to need to make their money somehow. So yes, I don't blame them. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching live, go ahead and drop your name and just drop a hi in the chat. Say hi. Tell us where you're from. Let's get conversation going. I mean, that's part of one of the reasons why we want to do these live is to interact with the 2K crew. And if you don't know who the 2K crew are, it is the fans of the Turbo and 2K show. And we do have a Facebook group where we all hang out. So if you want to go over to facebook.com/groups/Turbo and 2Ks, you can become part of the 2K crew too. And I tell you what, I got to give my hats off to the 2K crew because usually they're posting shit on there before ESPN even gets I get a notification from ESPN, so they're usually very, very on top of it. But before we get too deep there, 2Ks, I do want to thank all of our new viewers and subscribers. We've had quite the. I've been doing some YouTube shorts, and they've been killing, getting 500-600 views, and 2Ks. The one I did about Jim Harbaugh and his job and his hot seat went over 1,000 views today. So pretty proud of that, and hopefully we get some more videos doing the same. Maybe we get some of the live video numbers up there as well. So just want to thank each and every one of you for watching and hanging out with us, and continue to watching. So 2Ks, I think we should start the conversation off with the NBA draft. It was done virtually, which I don't think shocked anybody. Most everything nowadays is like, the Heisman is going to be virtual, everything like that. So not a big shocker there. But I am going to put up on the screen here the top 10 draft picks. So hold on one second. And let's just go down the list, 2Ks. Let me know your thoughts on each one of these guys and the fit with the team. And you're more of the NBA guy, so I'm going to rely on you as a crutch for this. So, but
that don't follow basketball maybe as much as what we do the MLB and the NFL. I kind of use that tournament to kind of get a good look at some of the prospects going into the NBA draft. And for some of these guys, that the tournament is maybe the first time that I watch them, or just going into the tournament, I might only have watched some of these guys one or two times. So going into this draft, I had to do some research on a lot of these guys, because I got to be honest with you, probably about 80% of this draft, I didn't even know the names.
And you know what, for everyone listening and watching, I do apologize. You probably didn't hear 2Ks because I didn't have our mixer going in, so I do apologize on that. I did catch it, so hopefully, yes, you are hearing us now. But we're going to break down the NBA draft, at least the top 10 here, like you're seeing on the screen. And then we're going to dive into some free agency, so I do apologize for the inconvenience there. So, but no, you're very right, and I'll be the first one to admit, if you go back a few years ago, I think the prime example of what you just said was Steph Curry. There's a lot of folks that had never heard of Steph Curry before until his magical run with Davidson. And there's a lot of dudes that make their mark with that tournament. I mean, that's where they kind of let everyone, it's kind of like a coming out party for a lot of these dudes. And on top of that, the players that are kind of on the fence can help build their resume for this as well. And it's kind of I'm not going to say it's like a combine for the NFL, but it kind of is. I mean, you're seeing how, if he's a big dude, can he shoot outside? If he's a shooter, how accurate is he? Where does he shoot best? From the floor. If he is a big guy, how do they do the pick and roll and everything like that? So, and you get to do it, and you get to review and kind of scout live, because they're playing these games, day in and day out, as long as they go in the tournament. So, you are very right. But the T-Wolves, they won the lottery, so they got the first pick, and they kind of held really close to the vest who they were going to take. And I think the consensus here was they were either going to take Anthony Edwards from Georgia, James Wiseman from Memphis, or LaMelo Ball. They have him listed as Australia, but we know where LaMelo Ball is from. So let's just be perfectly honest. And I actually did one of the YouTube shorts on if you were starting your franchise and building around each one of these guys, which one would it be? And right out the gate, 2Ks, I'll tell you mine, who I would start with, and then I want to get your input as well, and kind of a breakdown of the not necessarily where they went yet, but just as far as a breakdown on each one of those three dudes. But for me, LaMelo, staying away from. I mean, it has nothing to do with his family. I just haven't seen him play, and for me, he has the highest potential to be a bust. Is he? But does he have the potential to be the best one out of his brothers? Absolutely. He's got the size. He shoots a lot better than his brother. And ironically enough, him and Lonzo were the first brothers taken in the top five, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, my like I said, my thought is, I'm staying away from LaMelo. Just like I said, he has the highest, in my opinion, the highest bust factor. James Wiseman, I think, his ceiling is higher than LaMelo. But then again, we didn't. It was very unfortunate that we did not get to see this kid because I think he's going to be a great player. But my guy is I'm going with Anthony Edwards just because he has the more built out frame. His game is more towards like a LeBron as opposed to like a big man. So for me, he's the most all around player and probably the safest pick out of the three. Where where would you rank those guys as far as the guys you would take to start your franchise?
Yeah, I thought about this all day. Really kind of just doing some research on it, and the more I look into it, I really, I did. I was trying to come up with everything I could to try to avoid this guy because, obviously everything that comes around the ball, last name. But
Yeah,
as far as upside goes, and look, there's nobody in this draft. Nobody was drafted that is going to show up on day one and and be a true difference maker, or turn one of these teams into a championship caliber player. And if there was one, it's probably Wiseman going to the Warriors, just because the Warriors are significantly better than every team that's in that was even in the lottery as far
absolutely.
as for this draft. So obviously it took a huge knock this week by losing Klay Thompson to injury, and it sounds like he's going to be done for the year, which is very unfortunate because with having him back and Curry back, I had to think the Warriors were going to be a team that was going to be able to compete for another championship this year with all those guys healthy, and then to add a top pick and to add a guy like James Wiseman at center. That's what they needed. I mean, that was really the center spot was really the only thing in that starting five that they were lacking. Going into this draft, going into this season. So Wiseman's the guy that can make the biggest, had the potential to make the biggest difference as far as this draft or top three picks. But as far as upside, looking into the future, I got to go LaMelo Ball. The size, the skill. Watching videos of him, obviously he's been a YouTube sensation watching him. But some of the passing, and he just has a knack to be able to score. Obviously, watching some of those videos, I don't think there's a whole lot of defense being played on him.
Right.
But he just has a lot of ability, a lot of just God-given ability and talent that I think is going to take him far. And then obviously the size that he has too. You can't coach size, and to be able to be a point guard in the NBA. Be 6'7" or 6'8", whatever he's listed at. I just think that he's got the potential to be something special in the league. Whether he gets that or not, we'll have to see. As far as Anthony Edwards, he was the number one pick. They went to the Timberwolves. A lot of things I like about him. Probably going to be able to step into that Timberwolves team and be one of the top options. The only thing I don't necessarily, really like about him is he's not a very good shooter. He is a good scorer as far as getting to the basket. He's a very good athlete. Got a lot of explosiveness, but a lot of it's really raw with him yet. I don't think we've seen the best of it, but he's another guy that I don't think we're really necessarily going to see big things for, in the first couple of years. He's probably a guy that, if he does start to go off, I think it's going to take 3 or 4 years for him to get to that point. So I guess if I had to rank them, I would probably rank Ball number one. probably go James Wiseman number 2, just because of the situation that he's going to be in. I'm not saying that he's the better option or the better player than Anthony Edwards, but just because of the role that he's going to play on a very good team, I would have him number 2, and then Anthony Edwards number 3.
Yeah, I actually caught a lot of flack for, because like I said, LaMelo's one of those guys that if he does hit, and if he does if he is successful in the league, I mean, you do have a terrific scorer, a rebounder, has size, pretty much all around good player. But to me, I don't know. It's not necessarily the stigma around his family and his name. It's just, I kind of question the kind of the level of competitiveness overseas where we played. Obviously, I didn't see him play a lot, so that's kind of where I'm coming from on it. But yeah, I think we can both agree that Wiseman is definitely in the best situation out all three of these dudes.
Absolutely.
Even
Absolutely.
though,
like I don't want to judge LaMelo on the last name, but it's hard not to. I mean, anybody can say that they don't want to, but obviously what ESPN does as far as blowing that name up and his dad, being all over it, and to me it really ruined Lonzo's career. I mean, the first portion of his career, I think, was kind of overshadowed. He was just in the shadows of his dad all over ESPN, and it just kind of made a mockery and kind of a joke of him, and it put even more pressure on him. And I think it gave Lonzo a lot of haters, and it just kind of set him up to fail. And look, Lonzo's not an all-star caliber player, but he's a very good, serviceable player in the NBA. But I think, and I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of a player he is. And I think LaMelo, the youngest one, is going to end up being the most talented one out of all of them, and probably going to be the best out of the three brothers. Probably going to be the one that has the best NBA career.
Yeah, and I think with Lonzo, taken number 2 overall by the Lakers, being in that spotlight in LA did not help him. That's kind of right when Kobe was moving on, and everyone was kind of, I'm not saying kind of forcing him to fill Kobe's shoes, but when you're coming in, when a legend leaves like that, no matter if anyone's putting the pressure on to do that, I mean, just you yourself, I mean, you kind of have to figure well, one of the greatest Lakers ever just retired, and now they draft me, and I can only imagine the pressure that itself puts on a player, let alone Lonzo's dad just being a fucking moron, and that putting all the attention on him. And now that he's with the Pelicans and Zion and all those dudes down there, which we're gonna get to here in a little bit, but I'm very optimistic about what they have going on down there in with the Pelicans. So even with the departure of Anthony Davis has brought some very good pieces in there, and I think they got some really cool shit brewing down there. So, but we do have 4 people in chat, so let us know where would you rank the 3? Which one would you take to start your franchise? Let us know in the chat so we can see kind of gauge our opinions against yours, and because we'd love to hear from you. So 2Ks, let's break it down. Obviously, like I was saying, the Timberwolves, because normally when it comes to the NBA draft, there's usually like the overall number 1. Like it's kind of assumed, like last year, the Pelicans were going to take Zion. I mean, that was kind of a given at that point. But the Timberwolves had entertained offers for teams to move up. They had obviously which one of these 3 guys were they going to take, and probably up until 24 hours before the draft, it was looking like it was kind of leaked that they were going to take LaMelo, and pretty much I think the Warriors were. I mean, everyone pretty much assumed that Wiseman was going there, and like you said, 2K, is that yes, James Wiseman is kind of the most in the most comfortable situation, and then there's even some folks kind of hinting at the whole when the Spurs got Tim Duncan when they already had David Robinson. So one of those the rich get richer by being bad for 1 year. And let's see here. Jeffrey Burton says Patrick Williams, Rookie of the Year. All right, Jeff. All right. I don't tend to agree with that, but you're gonna get my Rookie of the Year pick here in a little bit. But yes, Jeff, thank you for the comment, my brother. But yeah, so Timberwolves go Anthony Edwards. I think that's a good fit for them. Someone else to complement KAT down there, and some of the very very young Timberwolves that are over there. And we already talked about the Warriors. The Hornets, on the other hand, they're the ones that take LaMelo Ball, and I think obviously, and it was highly publicized that Michael Jordan signed off on that. So it's kind of I mean, where kind of else would they go with that pick? So. But yeah, that's where the top three landed. Those were the top three, like the studs. But everyone else, it seemed like, from everyone else's opinion, was like the second tier, if you will. So this is where a lot, the people went different ways, and there was a player, one player that I had my eye on that actually kind of dropped way lower than what I anticipated. What's Jeff say here? Jeff says, haha, not a big fan of that pick, but some say he's the best NBA player in the draft, whatever that means. Well, Jeff, it's one of those things where time will tell, my brother. Time will tell.
Out of all the picks in the top 10, that was probably the most questionable pick, in my opinion. I just thought the Bulls, there was a lot of other things with the Bulls. Could have Obi Toppin. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
That was the name that I really thought the Bulls. I just thought he was going to be a perfect fit, and I thought that he was kind of a lock to go to Chicago. And when I heard Patrick Williams, I was like, man, that's the shock of the draft so far.
Yeah, and to me, in my eyes, Obi Toppin is the best all around player in the draft. I mean, the only knock on him is that everyone says he went to Dayton. I don't give a fuck where he went to school. I really don't. That kid is a stud. So if you are if you're an NBA basketball card collector, I'd be getting on the Obi Toppin cards and kind of leaving the Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball cards alone. That's just my opinion. But no, I think Patrick Williams is a very serviceable player. Played in the SEC, obviously at Florida State. I'm not gonna say it's a bad pick by any means, but I'm right there with you. I think I would have went Toppin right there. So we shall see. We shall see. What's Jeff got to say over here? Says, and he can't guard the post. One guy said his grandma could post him up and score. Well, it could be, but yeah, like I said, to me, I'm, and for those that don't know, we're at pick 5 with the Bulls, and Toppin dropped to the 8th pick with the Knicks, and I think this is one of the first times that the Knicks haven't fucked things up. Like, this was the Knicks were probably like, holy shit, I can't believe. I honestly can't believe Toppin's here. So yes, I think Toppin will fit really good with R.J. Barrett and some of the other young studs that the Knicks are putting together. So I'm not saying the Knicks are back by any means. Don't put words in my mouth like that. But I think I think they're on the right track with these last 2 draft picks that they had, because I was a huge R.J. Barrett fan, and I'm a huge Obi Toppin fan. So. And Jeff's talking shit about the Knicks fans. And what does he have to say here? And the Knicks fans are happy. They want 13 forwards now. They wanted Denny. Okay, but no, Knicks fans should not have anything to bitch about. Like I said, I think they're. I was more hyped. Last year it's kind of hard not to be hyped on Zion and Ja, but I think if RJ would have went somewhere else than the Knicks, so I think he Yeah, just as even though he is also a forward. Yes, you're very right. But no, I think the Knicks should be super stoked because I do think they're on back in the right direction. I said, are they there yet? No, but they will be. They will be. And the Cavaliers take Isaiah Oroku from Auburn. Have very little knowledge of this guy. Actually, very little knowledge of everyone left besides Obi Toppin. So 2Ks are going to need your help on some of these. Cavs. I mean, they've obviously if a team is in the lottery, they have some definite holes to fill. So it's not like it's a plug and play where this guy's gonna, aside from the Warriors, of course. But yeah, excuse me. What are your thoughts on Mister Okoro? Isaiah
Oh, yeah.
Okoro? That he's
Yeah, the thing about this draft is, I mean, let's be honest. There was three players. You pretty much knew that those three guys were going to go in the top three, and then after that, it's just do you do your research? Are you going to hit on these guys? A lot of these guys are going to end up being bust. A lot of these guys are going to just you're going to forget their name after this draft because they're just going to end up being role players, and that's kind of the way it works with the NBA draft. You very rarely see a draft where there's 20 players in the first round that are all going to be, significant difference makers. And this draft just doesn't have it. If you're a rebuilding team and you're going into this draft hoping that, you're going to hit the rebuild and you're going to be relevant, right after the draft, it wasn't going to happen here. So with the Koru, I did watch him play a little bit in college. He's just consistent. He does everything well. He's good on both sides of the ball. He can score. He's a good defender. Maybe one of the better defenders in this draft. So I think he's going to be a solid role player. But is he going to be a big difference maker? No, not at all.
And Austin Garveling dropped by the show. Says, "What's up, guys? Great show. Just wanted to say hi." Well, what is up, my brother? It's good to see you. And thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the kind words. And he says, "Gotta go later." Well, Austin, we will talk at you next time, my friend. And thanks again for stopping by. But no, I think you're right, 2Ks. And like I said, aside from the top three, Obi Toppin's probably the only one that kind of caught my eye. I did see the Pistons go foreign again. It's kind of the whole. They obviously didn't learn their lesson with Darko. They went Killiam Hines from Georgia, where they themselves could have taken Obi Toppin. So we shall see how that pans out. But
what's the Pistons pick with Killian Hayes there for? He was one from France, I believe. Another
Germany,
another big point guard, Germany. Another big point guard though, 6'5". That's kind of the way that the NBA is going. As far as point guards go, everybody on the floor, it seems like these days is 6'5" and above.
They're trying to find the next Luka.
Yeah, and who wouldn't want to try to find the next Luka?
No, it's like baseball teams trying to find the next Mike Trout. I don't blame them. So,
I mean, this pick, we'll see, and we'll see about it. The Pistons definitely needed the point guard. It doesn't shock me at all that they went point guard. Tyrese Halliburton in my opinion, was the best point guard. Another big point guard, and he ended up falling all the way down to number 12 to Sacramento. But he was kind of the one I thought the Pistons would take going into the draft. I knew they were going to go point guard. They obviously needed that. That was the position that they were lacking at, by far the most going all through last season and going into this off season. But no, I'm excited for this kid. We'll see. That's kind of how it's going to go with this draft. We'll see. Who hits and who doesn't. But this kid's very crafty, and he's a playmaker, and he makes things happen, and might not necessarily be the scorer that's going to go out there and score a lot of points, but he's going to make everybody on the floor, a better player, and going to set a lot of guys up. So I'm excited about this pick. I'm actually excited about the Pistons' entire draft in general.
Well, Jeff says Hayes is an American kid that went the LaMelo Ball route and went to college or went to overseas instead of college, right? That Jeff, I have no idea. I'm
No,
gonna.
I think he is. I think he's correct. I think he's correct.
Okay. Okay. Like I said, when I was doing when I was putting this list together, it just said that he was from Germany. So that's what I it's about as far down the Killiam Hayes rabbit hole that I went. We definitely need to update our Turbo and 2K's research staff. So, uh, but yeah, all in all, I think like I said, it wasn't that. To me, this draft wasn't like that star-studded. You've got 12 dudes, and you really don't know, where they're gonna go and stuff like that. It seemed like there was just the top three, and everything else just kind of fell to where the team's needs were and everything like that. And as far as that goes, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. So Jeff says, "Hey, I'm here to learn as well." So yeah, hey, we're all in the same boat, brother. We're all in the same boat. Well, 2Ks, let's so we had the draft, and then the free agency kind of got started. And the free agency, I know it's not really free agency, but everything kind of got kickstarted with this Chris Paul trade. And for those of you who don't know, Chris Paul is now a member of the Phoenix Suns. And for the Suns, I think it's a great pickup. It really didn't have to give up a whole shit ton. And I think you're gonna. I mean, CP3 is CP3. You're gonna get a great ball handler, a great distributor. Probably not as great of a scorer in this stage of his career, but he really doesn't need to be the scorer. I mean, he's got a pretty talented team surrounding him. So I'm actually pretty excited to see what he can do there.
Yeah, I mean, he's got one of the best scorers in the NBA in Devin Booker.
Yeah, yeah.
So and Devin Booker, this is a great pickup for Booker himself. I mean, just to be able to have a point guard now, take the ball out of his hands, so much, and be able to just spot up there on the wing and kind of do what he does best, which he's one of the best shooters in the NBA. So to me, it's a very good pickup for him. This is a team that very young, but they were right there in the thick of things last year. And obviously, adding a guy like Chris Paul is only going to make the team better.
Absolutely, and I mean, Chris Paul, adds that veteran leadership as well as that the commander on the floor. Like I said, he Chris Paul has always been a great distributor. Where he's kind of got hung up on things is where he's put in the position to be not only the distributor but the scorer as well. And then the points in his career where going back to the Hornets days where I couldn't name you another dude that was on the Hornets besides Chris Paul, and he put the team on his back and was making the playoffs and never really going extremely far, but going way farther than anyone really thought they would, just because he's that great of a player. Now he's a little bit longer in the tooth, don't get me wrong, but he's still that good floor general. He's still the good distributor. Like I said, he's that part of his game has never gotten rusty. And like I said, when he's not the primary scorer, I think is when he actually shines, because that's he's like a Rajon Rondo, but way better. He's a better distributor of the ball. He's it's still, even at this stage in his career, is a better scorer than Rondo ever was. So I'm right there with you. Him and Booker are gonna have a great relationship, and the only downfall is that Phoenix is in the West. I think that's still going to be one of their shortcomings, but instead of getting that 7 or 8 seed, maybe they're going to move up to that 4 or 5 seed. So, but to me, yes, I think it's a great pick, or a great pickup, and it was a great way to start free agency. And like I said, I was going to make another cool little slide like I did with the draft order, but fuck, there are so many free agent. I mean, the money's not flying around as much, I would say, as past years, but Gordon Hayward opting out of Boston and signing, he signed with the Hornets, correct?
Yep.
For like $130 million, $150 million or some shit. And wow, I think that was the shocker. They talks between the Celtics and Hayward were extended so they can get some more time to make this deal done. And he ultimately was just like, you know what, fuck you. I'm going to take my money and go somewhere else, because there is no way in hell that you can tell me that the Hornets are in a way better spot to win anything in the East than the Celtics. And
yeah, that whole I just and Hayward's not the only deal. I mean, there's a lot of deals that I've seen this past week where the money on what they're paying some of these guys. Obviously we talked about the draft kind of being not a lot of big names in this draft. But there's not a lot of big names in free agency this year either. Compared to
they're all going to be next year.
Like last. And, yep, exactly. So, and to see some of these teams and the money that they're spending, I guess I kind of thought maybe some teams would kind of hold off a little bit as far as what they're spending this year to kind of set themselves up to go after some of those big names last year or next year.
Very true, and it was always rumored that Hayward really didn't like his role in Boston, but to me, he's 4 years removed from being an All-Star, in that he's had two pretty big injuries. I mean, the one was nasty. I mean, he played one game or a half with the Celtics and got hurt, and then really didn't play the rest of that year. He's definitely not the player he was coming from the Jazz, that's for sure. But I think a lot of it is injuries, and hasn't been there to make an impact. So Boston's had to move on. They just can't wait for him, and for him to be pissed off and at his role. I mean, you're not reliable. How much of a role can we give you? But to me, it was I look at it this way. It was a cash grab to get the hell out of there and get his money, because he's like, you know what, I don't like it here. I'm just gonna go get paid. I'm just gonna go get paid and hang out with Michael Jordan and smoke cigars and do cool shit like that. So to me, that's kind of what it said to me. I could be totally wrong. I have no idea. I'm not in Gordon Hayward's head. He hasn't texted me lately to know what exactly is going through his mind, so I really don't know. But to me, that's exactly what I see it as. And everyone,
absolutely.
Folks in the chat, let us know about the Gordon Hayward. What are your thoughts on? Because I mean, that was it was weird how they gave him an extension to kind of chat things out. And then the very next day he comes out with this, I'm signing this gigantic fucking contract with the Hornets. And so yeah, let us know your thoughts. Am I completely nuts to think that's what's going on? I don't think I'm that nuts. I really don't.
No, to me, this is for personally as a player, this is one of the biggest wins in all free agency this entire offseason. I mean, for him, I don't think it's much of a win for Charlotte as a franchise.
No.
And I don't really know where they're necessarily going with this to lock him into a 4-year deal. But for him to make $120 million over 4 years with the injuries that he has, and let's just be honest, it's unfortunate with the injuries, but he's not anywhere close to the player that he was in Utah when he was an All-Star.
A perennial All-Star, yeah.
Yeah. He's not anywhere close to that anymore. So for him to be able to pull this deal, kudos to him. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to knock him at all. No. Charlotte, I question it a little bit. I kind of question what the hell is going on. But I mean, for Gordon Hayward and for himself, I mean, this is a great contract for him.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of like we brought up already, next year's free agent class is going to be huge. I mean, you have Giannis is obviously the biggest one, and even let's not kick Gordon Hayward around anymore. He got his money. He's where he's at. Harrell goes to the Lakers, which is kind of odd, and forgot his name, big dude, Anthony Davis opts out. pretty much all likelihood, Anthony Davis opts out just to sign a different contract. But Graham Harrell, I think is a great signing for them. It was very economical, gives them a solid big. And if AD gets squirrely, I mean, you have it's definitely not, Harrell's not the same caliber of player of Anthony Davis. That's not what I'm saying, but very serviceable. I think.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, the Harrell signing was a great signing for the Lakers. And look, when you have LeBron on your team, obviously you're going to have guys that are going to, want to. Everybody's going to want to team up with LeBron. I mean, if you're on LeBron's team, chances are you're probably going to get an opportunity to play in the finals.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody's playing for. So, so the Lakers are going to have, they're going to get their opportunities with a lot of free agents every single offseason, just because of the simple fact that they have LeBron on their team and he's the best player in the NBA and everybody wants to team up with him. So, but yeah, the Lakers and the offseason that they're having. Obviously Anthony Davis, I think everybody believes he's going to end up coming, he's going to end up signing a new deal there and he's not going anywhere. But the Lakers, they stirred up, they lost Dwight Howard. So bringing in Harrell was the replacement for him, which I think is an upgrade compared to Dwight Howard, even though 100%. Dwight Howard did have a good season last year, but he's not at, where he's at in his career. He's not as good of a player as Harrell.
Yeah,
and then they were able to re-sign. They were able to re-sign Caldwell Pope. That was he was a big player in there. There was a lot of games where he was a starter for the Lakers last year. A very good two-way player, very good shooter, which you want to surround LeBron with good shooters on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pope's a very good defender on the defensive side of the ball too. So to bring him in, and then they brought in Wes Matthews also, who's Wes Matthews he's just a veteran, and that's what you need, and that's what LeBron is going to want. Is he wants guys that have been there. He wants guys that have played in the league and have that experience, and they're not going to make big time mistakes in pressure situations, because the Lakers are going to be playing in a lot of pressure situation games. So,
and they were not able to re-sign Rondo. So, and to me, Rondo was like kind of a weird linchpin to that team, especially in the playoffs. There were times in the playoffs where he just kind of took over, and for a LeBron-led team to have a point guard take over like that is kind of odd to see. But that's just playing off exactly what you said. I mean, Rondo is he's a vet. He's been there, has won a title before. So he was that.
Rondo just knows. He just knows all the. Rondo just is the gritty point guard that knows how to win. Everywhere he goes, he's a winner. And actually, I love it was the Atlanta Hawks that signed him.
Okay.
So for him to go there with Trae Young, obviously we know the upside that Trae Young has, and we know how good of a scorer Trae Young is. And I mean, Trae Young to me is very similar to like a Steph Curry, being able to being one of the better shooters in the NBA, being able to basically spot up from anywhere on the floor and shoot. But the one question with Trae Young is, how good is he, as just a true point guard at running the show as a point guard, passing, playing defense, and to sort of bring in a veteran like Rondo to play behind him and just kind of, teach Trae Young all the other things that, because part of being a franchise player, let alone a franchise point guard, is you got to be able to do everything well, not just shoot the ball and not just score. And we know that Trae Young is very good at both of those things, but not necessarily a great all around point guard yet. But he'll get there, and especially when he can play with a guy like Rondo for the next 2 years. So I thought that was a great signing.
Yeah, and I was trying to remember where he went and signed with, but yeah, that does make a lot of sense. That makes total sense. But let's be honest. If AD goes anywhere else, I'll be 100% floored.
Absolutely.
I just think this was, I'm almost positive the Lakers knew that this was going to happen even way before he made it public that he was going to opt out. And the Lakers being the Lakers, especially after the season that they had, their plans for bringing him back had to be included in this. So to me, this kid, if it is a shock to the Lakers, it's that would something that would be totally blow my mind that they had no idea this was coming. So just kind of my thoughts on that. So what other big names were on the move in this free agency fury there, 2Ks?
Not a lot of big time names. Like we touched on, next year's kind of going to be the year where there's some bigger names, but there was still a lot of good players. You see a lot of good players that re-signed. Obviously, one of the first ones that kind of comes to mind is Brooklyn. We know that Brooklyn has Durant coming back this year, and Kyrie's going to be healthy, but there's you got to be able to fill all 5 spots, and you got to be able to have those role players, and for them to make a deal to re-sign Joe Harris, who's been nothing but consistent for them. Another two-way player, very good defensively, very good shooter, and that's what you kind of want when you have guys like Kyrie and Kevin Durant, who are obviously going to have the ball in their hands a lot. You want to surround those guys with shooters, and Joe Harris is a very good spot-up shooter, and for them to get that 4-year deal done with him, I thought that was a great move for them.
Didn't the Pistons sign? Is it one of the Lopez brothers and then one of the Plumlee brothers? Or am I completely off on that?
Mason Plumlee. They signed Mason Plumlee, who
I didn't even know he was still in the league, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's solid. He kind of overshadowed. He's a very good center. Kind of overshadowed, in his Denver stint because of the other big man there. I can't think of his name. I'm in the brain fart. I can't think of his name right now. But no, the Pistons they're in rebuild mode. I mean, you could see it on draft night. I think they ended up making three trades during the draft because I think they walked away from the draft with 4 picks. So they're just trying to, obviously if you've got 4 picks in the draft, you're going to be a very young team. So
yeah.
You want to surround those guys with some veterans, some guys that have been there, and done it before, and it's gonna take some time for the Pistons to get back to a playoff caliber team, but to be able to surround some of these young kids with players like Mason Plumlee, and obviously Blake Griffin's still there, it's gonna be very good for them. So we'll see.
Well, good. Excuse me. Like I said, I started going down the rabbit hole of this free agency, and I got more and more. I'll be the first to admit there's more and more people signing and re-signing that I had no idea who the fuck they were. So I was like, I think we'll just stop here and just kind of do a little research and just kind of fly by the seat of our pants on this one. Which, if you followed us for any length of time, this whole podcast is flying by the seat of our pants. So for us to even have a legit topic list is huge. So that's kind of what we do. But yeah, anything else that jumps out at you? Just trying to think. There was one more thing I was thinking of, and I cannot fucking think of it anymore. It's gone.
We mentioned Harold leaving Clippers and switching over to the Lakers. But I thought the Clippers made a very good deal, by bringing in Serge Ibaka.
I did see that. You're right.
I think Ibaka might even be a step up from Harold. So we talked about the Lakers getting better by adding Harold. I think the Clippers probably got better by adding Ibaka into that. So that was a good deal, in my opinion.
I've always been a pretty big Ibaka fan. So I that deal went down like last night or something, didn't it? That was a very, very recent one.
Yep. And then Tristan Thompson, who played for the Cavaliers, going to Boston now. One of the better rebounders in the game, probably one of the best offensive rebounders, especially in the game, to add on to a Boston team who's obviously going to be very good and going to be able to compete for the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
So they got better there with that pick or with that pickup. So
wasn't there a huge Thunder Jazz trade or something went down? Because I saw something that they added to it that what was his name? It's not Steve. Yeah, it's Steven Adams. The post. He left the. He's going from the Thunder to I think the Jazz, wasn't it? Yeah, I thought there was a huge trade that like they said they were adding to the trade in the bottom line today. So as you can tell,
Uh,
I really did my homework on this
looking, I'm just like you said, we're doing this kind of
one. Off the cuff, if you
seat of
will.
our pants. Yeah, because I'm scrolling through stuff right now. There's obviously some things I read on, but
It's just so
the
there's
one thing
just
with the
so much stuff to dig
you think
through.
about, well, you think about like off season moves that happen in baseball, and it's drug out throughout the entire off season, and even with the NFL, it's drug out. With the NBA, it's like boom, they do everything in a matter of 1-2 days,
Well, that
and
I think a lot of these deals are already. I'm not gonna say put in place, but yeah, fuck it. Let's say put in place even before the free agency time starts. And especially in the NBA, it seems like whenever the free agency hit, it's like a fucking race to see who does it first. And
yeah,
then
I mean that's exactly what it is.
and
And
then
it's
it's
hard
like,
to
all
keep up
right,
with it all.
this dude sets the bar, and then every other signing is kind of based off of that first guy. I don't know if that's to me. That's what it seems like every year. Like one guy sets the stage. All right, you know what? I'm signing 4 years, $80 million, and then everyone kind of judges the market at that point. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's actually what it feels like. It sounds like to me. But yeah, it especially this year when everything is so condensed and the off season is just put in a very small basket where years past, yes, it's extended a little more. I mean, I want to say like I said, the draft was Tuesday or Wednesday. Free agency started the next day, and then that I want to say sometime next week. I think the training camp opens. So you talk about especially dudes like LeBron and everyone from the Lakers and everyone that made a deep playoff run this year, you've got shit for time off this year, brother. So you better take your week in the Bahamas with your family or whatever. And then you really got to get right back to it because there is almost zero off season this year. So we'll see. I'm wondering to. I'm kind of curious to see how that is gonna play. And from what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, 2Ks, they're not doing as it stands right now. They're not doing the bubble again. They're just doing centrally locate or I I'm probably speaking out of turn now, but are they playing at their home courts this year or this coming season? Is
I
that the plan?
that I think that is the plan at where we stand right now. But as we've kind of seen throughout this entire process, is um, you know, how, what can you believe?
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of can only take this a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time,
That-
because obviously things change, and we've seen that firsthand here out throughout
And
basically this entire year.
I did see that Toronto's playing in Tampa, I think, just
hmm
because of the whole you got to quarantine for 2 weeks before going into Canada. So that's
Yeah.
obviously a change, but I'm sure all the players will welcome this change instead of being cooped up in the bubble, because they were 3 months. If you
Mhm.
from the beginning to the end was 3 months, so I can only imagine trying to do that for an entire season, an entire 81 game. I think they're playing 72 games this year, or something right around there. But I couldn't imagine doing the entire season like that.
Mhm.
Last year was kind of obviously no one really knew what the hell was going on, and we've given the NBA kudos many times for how they handled it because there
Mhm.
was once everyone was in the bubble, you never heard about a positive test at all. I mean, it wasn't even a thing. So but again, the NBA has probably the smallest team nucleus as far as all the other major sports are concerned. So it's probably a little easier to do that. You couldn't do it with a football team. That would be almost it's you know 12 players I think are on an NBA roster as opposed to like 53 or some shit for the NFL. You might be able to pull it off with baseball just because they have a 25 man I think or 27. But yeah, the NBA had did it the right way, and we've already talked about that, so we won't go further into it. But it's going to be, I'm sure the players are going to be a little bit more comfortable, a little bit happier playing in their own stadiums. But then again, it's probably going to be state dependent on if they have fans or not. So we shall see. We shall see. I did see on the bottom line the other day, the Warriors are going to plan on, I think it was 5,000 fans in the stands, at least to start the season out. So we shall see where that goes, as well as just any of the other teams, because I'm sure that, like I said, each state has their own rules. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. But yeah,
I did
Chad,
find the Steven Adams trade that you were talking about earlier. It was actually a multi-team deal, 4-team trade. It ended up sending Steven Adams went from Oklahoma City to the Pelicans. Drew Holiday, actually, I think Drew Holiday out of this entire trade is the best player in it, and he ended up with Milwaukee. So for him to be able to team up with Giannis now,
that is right.
In Milwaukee.
I do remember this now. Yes.
Yes, and the Thunder and all of it. The Thunder ended up walking away with it with a future first-round pick and a future second-round pick. So I think that's obviously what Oklahoma City wants to do is rebuild. Yeah. So I think it was a deal that worked out for everybody. But Drew Holiday going to the Bucks, that's a very good deal.
Yeah, because the Bucks have to do everything they can to right now,
absolutely.
to keep Giannis.
This is their year, because if they something tells me that Giannis is just not going to stay. I just have this feeling that he's going to be, wanting to get out of Milwaukee, wanting to get into more of a big market franchise. So this possibly could be the last year that he's there, and I think Milwaukee might know that. So in my opinion, they got to go all out for it, and at least show that they're going to go all out for it to maybe be an appealing option for Giannis to come back.
Oh, 100%, and I'm right there with you. I have a feeling that even if they win an NBA, even if they win a title this year, I still think Giannis walks. I think his name and everything is more brand friendly, or would accommodate more people, being in a different market, and I think he's gonna be able to pretty much write his own check to wherever he goes next year. So then again, a lot of these teams are going to have to get creative with cap room so they can afford a price tag like that, because I'm pretty sure the Greek Freak is not going to be the cheap Greek Freak. I'm pretty sure you're going to have to pay whatever super maximum, or however the fuck they figure that out. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen, and it's going to take a deep pocketbook and some salary cap finagling to fit Mr. Giannis in anywhere. So I do. Whether it's New York, LA, wherever it is, any place that's bigger than Milwaukee, and there really isn't anything in Milwaukee, so, or Milwaukee, it's Algonquin for the good land, for those of you that don't know. Show me in the chat what movie that's from, and then you get extra points. But we're at that hour mark, 2Ks. Is there anything that we missed? Anything you want to wrap up? Yeah. I think I've laid everything out that I have for this. Like I said, I tried to do my due diligence on this, and it just, especially when it came to the free agency stuff, because it was just, I couldn't get find a website. It was like, all right, well, this guy went here and signed this, signed for this much. This guy went here, signed for this much. That would have been too fucking easy.
And the NBA is so hard to keep track of, because there's so much wheeling and dealing. Just because a team signs somebody or a team trades for somebody doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to keep that guy. You know,
True.
they do a lot of sign and trade, or they trade for somebody that they don't necessarily want, but then they're able to move him somewhere else, and it's just it's so much wheeling and dealing. It's so hard to keep up with. To where when something happens in the major league or in the NFL, it's kind of like they make that deal and it's done. That guy's going there, and it's pretty cut and dry. But with the NBA, there's so much, and it all happens, in a matter of 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot to take in. And then at the same time, when it's, we've made it really, really clear that the NBA just isn't really, our favorite sport to cover. So obviously, when you're trying to, talk about something that, you're not as passionate about as what we are with baseball and football, it's going to be harder to get interested in it and truly talk about it. So,
and to kind of bring your point back up too is where we see a lot of these kids play is the March Madness, and without March Madness this year, especially when it comes to the draft, I mean, there's a lot of players that we really weren't familiar with, or as familiar as we are used to being familiar with these players. So, but yeah, 2K crew, we love you. Thank you again for everyone that's watching the shorts that I'm making. It's driving a lot of traffic to the page. So, yes, please like, subscribe, drop us a comment. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Austin, for interacting with us. We love you guys. And 2Ks, if there's nothing else left on the agenda, we will, Mr. Jim Rome, as always, we're still coming for you.